Hey everybody, what's going on? I have a friend of the show back, John Capotorto of New York. What's going on, John?
Hey Mark, how you doing? Everything's good on this
Is this
this side of the woods here. How you guys doing out there?
Yeah, pretty good. It's we're getting through that June gloom and getting some sunny days here finally. Burns off, 10, 11 o'clock, typical Southern California summer weather. Is this like the third time you've joined me? I think it's the third time, isn't it?
Yes, this is the third time, and each time at least the first two times, I enjoyed it immensely, and I'm sure I'm going to enjoy it this as well as we prepare for what we hope is going to be a pretty good season
Yeah, so we have
for Rams football.
right, right. We have the draft well behind us, free agency, the OTAs, and the mandatory minicamp, and now it's just that pause until the real training camp opens. And what is your biggest concern with this Ram team at this point, if you have one? You got to have at least one thing that's a little unsettling.
Well, Mark, going through each of those steps since we last spoke, and I know at the time we were talking about there was that other lull between the end of the season, the end of the playoffs, and the beginning of free agency, and we were talking about who on the team to keep or not keep, and I think there was a couple of things that I said at the time that looking back, it didn't happen. And, we didn't keep Jackson, the other Jackson, Jonah Jackson. And that ended up being a good thing because, Detroit gave us the best deal. And we were able to get him off our book. So, it's so hard to predict, how things are going to go. But I think when it comes to free agency, I think two pickups that were huge for the Rams, in my opinion, Puna Ford and obviously Davante Adams, and I think those two are going to really change the team and they're going to make us better, obviously, defensively against the rush, which was our biggest weakness last year. And also replacing, even though you never replace Cooper Kupp, but Devontae is going to come close to it. Hopefully, even do it better, as far as the Cooper Kupp of the last few years. Having said that, then the draft. I think we did very well with the draft. I think the Ferguson is going to, and we talked about getting a tight end, and we talked about different tight ends. Ferguson was not on the radar when we talked the last time, but I think from what I'm hearing, the kid's good. So I think he's going to change our offense and make us more dynamic. I think a couple of the other players that they got during the draft are going to help on both sides of the ball. But, those were the big moves, in my opinion, that I'm looking forward to seeing and watching when the season starts. I think they're going to make a big difference. Obviously, this unfortunate situation with Alaric Jackson is giving me a lot of anxiety because, the offensive line is where it all begins and where it all ends. If we don't have a good offensive line that helps protect Matthew Stafford, if Matthew Stafford can't get the ball out, we got we got problems, and without the left tackle, I don't everybody knows is very key, and he's been such a good player for the Rams now for a while. Having the possibility of losing him or for a good chunk of the season, especially in the beginning, where we always get off to a bad start, lately at least. So that is what's scaring me is, obviously injuries, but that happens to every team, but injuries and in particular the situation with Alaric Jackson in the offensive line. And I know we got some we picked up Humphreys, we picked up the other guy to try to plug that
Quisenberry,
hole.
yeah.
But I don't know if these guys at the end of their careers practically are going to be able to match what Alaric Jackson has done for us over these years, and it's unfortunate. But I'm happy that he got his payday. I'm always happy when players get what they deserve, and he deserved it. He earned it. He didn't get drafted, and he did very well for himself and for the Rams. And I think if he doesn't make it on the field, or if, God forbid, he is on the field and he's on some sort of medication, blood thinner, as you know, I'm a doctor in training, by training, and I will tell you that these blood thinning medications, will put the person at very, very high risk. We're worried, especially when we give it to older patients. They fall, they hit their head. You're always worried about an internal bleed. Here's a fellow who's going to be playing football, which is a very violent sport, and getting hit, every play. So you kind of worry about him. But at the same time, if he's out, next man up. Do we have enough to be able to protect Matthew Stafford? And that is something that keeps me up at night.
Yeah, that's I think that was the obvious answer of what are we worried about? There's not a whole lot else to be worried about with this roster, but I went on and on for a couple of months that I was concerned about the backup tackle situation. One thing that we didn't address, and that was before the Alaric situation. So it's already come to pass, and DJ Humphreys we just have to hope he's up to it. He's had over a year now to recover from that ACL injury, and he's got a lot of experience. So hopefully he's up to it, because I have a feeling beginning of the year it's going to be DJ Humphreys, I think, for sure, right?
Yeah, again, I'm every time I listen to Rams updates, and even recently they were talking to Sean McVey, and he was pretty confident that somehow Alaric is going to be ready for opening day, or maybe I misunderstood what he was saying, or maybe it was just McVey speak, as you guys talk about McVey speak, just to get the team pumped up. But I can't see that being the case. I mean, he's probably home, he's resting, he's taking his medication. Is he going to be football ready come September or whatever? I don't see that happening, but, who knows? Hopefully, and again, we don't know, because we don't know enough about what it is that is causing these clots, and he's obviously predisposed to developing these clots, so he has some sort of blood clotting disorder. So it's hard to tell, because we just don't know enough, and I'm hoping that all we do know is that he's had these clots before, and now this is a recurrence of what he had before. And that makes it even more, even more nervous about it, because this is not a one-time deal. He had it; he's developed them again. So, and again, first things first, you want him to be and stay healthy, and then obviously, if he's not ready, we have to make sure you have the backup. And I have to give, as usual, Les Need a lot of credit in going out and getting the backup, just in case. And the backup that he got, definitely Humphreys, when he was healthy and he was at his prime, he was killing it in Kansas City.
Yeah. Yeah, and as far as what's to be excited about, you mentioned Poona Ford. Obviously, it's going to help the run defense. And then, if you think about it this way, as far as the offense, Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee, two of my favorite Rams of all time, just warriors. It's hard to say anything negative about either one of them. But you replace a Cooper Kupp who's had trouble getting separation over the last season. He hasn't been himself. And Tyler Higbee has always had some limitations. I mean, he's a very good tight end, but he is what he is, just a good tight end. You replace them with Devontae Adams and Terrence Ferguson, who appears to be, more of that dynamic, athletic tight end that can get vertical, and do some really fun stuff with with the ball in his hands. So you move away from Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee potentially. I mean, Higbee's still going to be part of this offense, obviously, but replace them with Devontae and Terrence Ferguson, and that has me excited because that adds an element to this Rams offense that we really haven't seen. Maybe Odell Beckham brought a little bit of that. That athletic wide receiver that can do a lot of crazy things downfield. But I'm excited about that to seeing this offense with Devontae and Terrence Ferguson on the field together with Puka, of course.
Yeah, and you get visions of the 2018 Rams that I think almost came close to the greatest show on turf. I mean, Devontae, I still see Devontae as a number one wide receiver. And of course, Puka's right there. And Puka's on his way up. Devontae maybe on his way down. But even last year, playing with two, you guys said it best. I'm in New York, so I know how the Jet culture can, literally ruin a player. No quarterback. What's his name was a basket case while he was here, Rodgers. And forget the time that he was in Vegas. I mean, he was like way over 1,000 yards. And some big plays that he had while watching him on Sunday when he was playing for the Jets. He still has it. Now, the question is, and I was talking to a friend of mine who's from Seattle, and we were talking about the impact that Cooper Kupp may have on Seattle, and I hope he does. But the bottom line is, the one thing that I will miss that Cooper brought, obviously the clubhouse stuff that I don't see, but he also did, he was an unbelievable blocker. He played every down. Right. He was the guy, and let's face it, during the Super Bowl, what made the Super Bowl so special was that everybody in the world knew that the ball was going to Cooper Kupp, and they still couldn't stop him.
Yeah.
And that takes a toll. It takes a toll physically, it takes a toll mentally. And since 2021, he hasn't been the same. I think that season, and at the time I scoffed at the idea that, he's never, we'll see, how much this season took out of him. And I'm like, he's an athlete. He'll be back. He'll be the same. He'll be the same for at least 2 or 3 more years. You know what? The following year we saw the difference, and he hasn't had a injury-free season since. So obviously, the fact that he's in every play, he was blocking like he was a back. On every play, it takes a toll. And eventually, he wasn't the same Cooper Kupp. And, like I said, I hope him well. I hope he does well with Seattle, at least when he's not playing against us. But right. I think Devontae, on the other hand, I think he still has a lot to prove. He wants to show everyone that he is the top dog. And I think he still has the tools to do it. And I'm looking forward to seeing it play out on the field because it's going to be fun. Will he be able to block on a given play like Cooper Kupp did? Probably not, because that's not his game. But that might be a blessing. We'll keep him on the field longer.
Yeah, and McVey has talked about that, saying how, the Rams' 11 personnel It's sometimes in name only because guys like Puka and Cooper Kupp participate in the run game like a tight end, and
Yes.
that was the key to their 11 personnel is they have wide receivers that are very physical and can participate in the run game like that. But he acknowledged, that this is there's a wear and tear element on wide receivers when you play that
Yeah.
game, and we've seen that with Puka too. Puka's missed a lot of time, just like Cooper Kupp has. So
Yeah.
maybe a guy like Devontae. They're still going to go when they do go 11 personnel. It may be more traditional where they're not necessarily involved in the run game as much, perhaps. But we'll have to see. McVey, I think, you know, I think sometimes, like a lot of good coaches, they may have a plan. Oh, I'm going to change it up. I'm going to be a little different this time around. But then they go back to, what they really really like. But he's shown that he can evolve as well. They change the running
Yeah.
game scheme and other things.
And I think that's also a key. I think this is a transition period, a transition year for the Rams, where they're moving, away from what brought them the Super Bowl to, a different approach. I think it's going to be hopefully just as effective, but I think it's important to see that McVay evolves as well, and that Stafford evolves as well, in that, he can't keep looking at the same guy when he's throwing
Right.
a pass, or let's, I could tell you over the years, tight formation, the 11 personnel, tight formation, and he was using the same exact formation and play scheme on every single play, and then changing it as it was happening. And he had the same people on the field all the time. And you knew pretty much where the ball was going. If it wasn't being handed off, it was going to go either Cooper Kupp, and then lately it got transitioned over to Puka.
Right.
But I think he needs to kind of. And he said it. He said it at the end of the year. More versatility in the play calling, but that's not up to us. That's up to him because
Yeah.
he's the
Right.
man calling the plays. So he's got to make that change. He's got to use everybody on the field, and have some fun.
Yeah, you got to spread the ball around more. Guys like Tutu Atwell didn't get nearly as many targets as he deserved. And one thing to keep an eye on, and I'm just kind of guessing here. I think the Rams could approach this season. Kyren Williams is going to be the starting running back, and he should be. But he has some limitations as far as big playability. And Blake Corum will be his backup because he's a very similar running back. But I think we're going to see some snaps for Jarquez Hunter, who has has a higher end speed, long speed, the ability to break big plays. And if you can imagine a Rams offense, how different it could look with Jarquez Hunter, Terrence Ferguson, and Devontae Adams, and Tutu Atwell, perhaps the speed element and that big playability. And I'm not saying Jarquez Hunter, don't misunderstand me. He's not going to be the starting running back, but if he proves that he can carry learn the playbook and perform in camp, not necessarily the preseason. I don't think the Rams care too much about that. There's going to be some snaps for Jarquez Hunter, I'm thinking, this season. And that would be a change for McVay as well, because you know how he treats rookie running backs. Kyren Williams, rookie season. Blake Corum, rookie season. Not seeing much action. I'm predicting Jarquez Hunter will get his fair share of snaps over the course of this season. And that'll be fun because there'll just be just more electricity in the air, I think, with guys like Hunter and Ferguson and Adams than with Williams, Cooper Kupp, and guys like that. Just a thought. How do you feel about that?
I've got to see it to believe it, Mark.
Yeah.
because over the years, I mean, it, it, Quorum, Blake. This is Blake's year to step up and show
Yeah,
us
you
what he
think.
has.
Yeah.
He never had that opportunity last year, or when he did, somehow it was very short lived. So I can't see them, McVey, unless this kid breaks a few plays and takes it to the house early on to the point where, we got to use this kid. He's the lightning to the other guy's thunder. Then maybe we'll see more of him. But I think he's going to stick to his usual process and kind of work him into plays. I'd like to see more plays from the backfield, even passing plays, more screen plays, more set plays to the running back, as far as passing plays.
Yeah.
I would love to see that because I think that's going to lessen the pressure on Stafford and help the offensive line. It seems that sometimes, whenever we are getting pressured and Stafford is getting rushed, the defensive line is not holding, that's when you should pull out those plays from your playbook. And
Right.
we haven't seen as much of that. So, look, I don't know. It sounds like this Hunter kid is going to be good. He's bringing a totally different aspect to the running back position than what we have, no doubt. But it's going to take a big leap for Sean McVay to bring him in and use him as a weapon early on.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, it'll only make them more dynamic. And that's what we're looking for. That's what he wants. He wants
Right.
more versatility.
Yeah, the lack of big plays out of the running back position was the only, and the fumbling. Those are the two things that, although I think the fumbling thing's overstated in my opinion. There was a couple of really painful fumbles that we remember. But considering the number of carries he gets, the number of touches Kyren gets, his fumbling wasn't out of control in my opinion.
I think it was the two fumbles. It's not just the fumbles. It's when he fumbled last
Right.
year that we still have a bad taste in our mouths. I don't think I've ever, in a playoff game in my 50 years of following this team, been as confident at that moment. We were down by one going into the fourth quarter, and I remember texting my son saying, "We got them. We're going to win this thing." And as soon as I said that, he had his first fumble. And then he fumbled again. And at that point, we were down, and the whole game was complete. And we still almost won. So
Yeah.
I think it left such a bad taste. And I know your last podcast with Ian, talked about this great debate. There is no debate. I mean, Kyren Williams is an excellent running back. When we can't forget the number of touchdowns he's scored for us. He's money when it comes to the red zone and getting the ball into the end zone. He's a trooper. He does what he needs to do. He knows his limitations. He knows that he's not going to be Shaquan. And he knows he's not going to be Marshall Faulk. He's Kyren Williams. He's got to learn how to hold on to the ball and Tiki Barber for the Giants a few years back, he had a fumbling problem, and they worked on it during the offseason, holding the ball a little higher, making sure that he protected it at all time. Next thing you know, Tiki never fumbled anymore. So they've got to work on that. I think that's part of coaching, it's part of the mental aspect of it. They've got to work on it, and if he could, secure the ball, what he does for the Rams is incredibly important. Do I wish that he could break off a 50-yard run? Yeah, of course, but that's not Kyren. And
Yeah.
make him now all of a sudden a bad running back, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think the debate he's referring to is a social media, probably Twitter. I'm not even sure. And some of the Rams forums, sometimes a small minority can make things sound like there's a big debate
They're
on
the
them.
loudest. They're usually the loudest.
Right, right. Just contrarians, and I can be a contrarian sometimes too. Just hey, sounds like the NYPD's having a field day there, huh?
Yeah, I apologize. I got the windows open, but
No, that's fine.
you
I
know,
actually, I
for
actually,
a Sunday, it is loud.
yeah, it kind of adds a reality element, so not a problem at all.
You see, I am in New York.
Yeah,
I
right.
actually am in New York.
Yeah, I remember spending the night in New York City at my brother-in-law's apartment, and he had it was the first time I had ever seen someone with a sound machine, a noisemaker, just to drown that out in the middle of the night, the
Or
sirens and
the background noise stuff.
right, right,
Yeah, we have that for my grandson. We
yeah,
have the background noise, and I'm like, Joe. I asked my son, what do we have background noise for? He's like, Dad, it'll keep him from waking up. For when they honk the horns and
right.
and ambulances go by. So yeah, it's important to New York City to kind of drown out the background noise. But getting back to I think the Rams are going to be a really good team. I my other fear is, I think we've talked about this, is hopefully getting off to a good start. And
Yeah.
again, there too, I have no idea how to not get off to a bad start. I think, early on, when McVey took over, the Rams got off to some really incredible starts and then kind of worked their way into the playoffs and then had their runs. I think over the last 2 years, if anything, the incentive has been to kind of build up so that when you get to December, January, now you're peaking and there's no incentive, to get off to a good start other than getting off to a good start is fun,
Right,
right?
right.
But the idea, hey, we're not gonna. There's no way he's gonna use his starters
I know.
during the preseason. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
And which again, I will as a physician say that, and I've always felt that he was, and everybody now is copying the Rams model. Very few teams are using their starters in preseason. As far as it's a game of attrition. I mean, look at the Lions last year.
yeah,
They got off to such an incredible start. They looked like they were unbeatable, and then they got to December. By the time they got to the playoffs, they didn't have a team to field. At least they didn't have a defense to field. So you don't want to do that either. So I think there's got to be a happy medium somewhere where you could get them ready. The first game against Texans is not going to be easy.
yeah,
It is the first game. They are playing at SoFi. Those are two big positives. But I also don't want to underestimate the Texan defense.
yeah.
And if there's one side of the ball that always starts off slow because they didn't have those reps in real game reps during preseason, it's the offense. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
Getting off to a good start, and I'm not saying they have to win the first 6 in a row, but definitely don't go 1-4 or what was it?
Yeah. Sometimes it's
1-6.
yeah, and they've also had a trouble, over the course of the season, slow starts in games. First halves that are just pitiful on offense, and sometimes it's like you have to play a mind game, maybe. Take a different route to the stadium, or come in, run through a different tunnel. I don't know, something just to change things up. Sometimes
You got to change something because getting off to slow starts during the season, during the game, that's something that, will eventually catch up to you, because the last 2 years, the margin of error during the second half of the season was close to zero. I mean, we lost any one of those games. I think you brought up the point, and in fact, listening to it, I said, yeah, he's absolutely right. If that game against the 49ers,
I know,
was so friggin' close. It was miraculous that we won that game.
We almost had no business.
We didn't really win it. It was more like the 49ers lost it.
Right, right. And, the 49ers definitely have they have a different thing that they're dealing with psychologically, and that's losing games at the end, not being able to close the deal. I mean, in that game, there was the Rams. The Rams were, they had nothing going on in that game. Then they had the fake punt, and then, the big punt return, just everything kind of went their way. But, just devastating for the 49ers. Didn't lose any sleep over that, though. So what's your prediction for the Rams this year, then?
Well, I think, if they could get off to a good start and like I said, not necessarily win every game, but at least hold their own, they have enough. And again, we always base our predictions on what the teams that they're facing did last year, which may be irrelevant this year.
Right.
But I think they've got enough games that they should win based on the performances last year that, I think they should be able to get 11, maybe 12 wins.
Yeah.
And be in a position where, who knows, maybe even get a bye, have the best record. I think within the division, I think there's so many question marks on the other teams. Obviously, Seattle has completely revamped their team, so we have no idea, what they're going to put on the field. The 49ers, the only thing that's going, in my opinion, for the 49ers is their schedule. Talk about weak schedule. I mean, they have a last-place team schedule. The 3 games that they're playing against last-place teams, we're playing against first-place teams.
Right.
So that is, God knows, what the 49ers, health has been their biggest issue last few years. And then you have Arizona. They always get off to a good start, and then they fizzle out. So within the division, I definitely think the Rams should be able to win 4 games at a minimum.
4-2.
Yeah, at a minimum. I mean, obviously, as a Ram fan, I hope they win all 6 of them. But, you figure you're going to lose 1 or 2 on the road. And then, playing the South of both the NFC and the AFC is a big break. I think, other than the Texans and obviously Tampa, the other teams are not, we should be able to handle them. But and then you've got the games that you're playing. The top team in that division. Obviously you got Philadelphia, you got the Lions, and then you're playing. I've always referred to it as the 17th game. You're playing the Ravens.
Right.
That's not going to be an easy game. You're playing here on the east side, the East Coast, and that's never an easy game in Baltimore. Yeah. So, I could, if everything breaks right, we stay healthy, we protect Stafford, we should be able to win, like I said, 11, 12 games, and hopefully that's enough to get a bye. I'd like to get a week off, not have to worry about it.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I've been thinking 11-6, 12-5, and you mentioned those games against the AFC South and NFC South. I'm thinking, we need to win most of those games. And the one thing on our side, the 2 toughest games, in my opinion, of those 8 games, the Texans and the Buccaneers, we get both of them at home.
Yes.
So I could see us not easily. I could foresee us going 6-2 in those 8 games, possibly even
Yes.
better. We need to rack up some wins against those teams. Just have to. We can't afford to slip. And we usually have one dud a year. Last year it was the Bears, right, where we just, what are we doing?
That was crazy.
Yeah,
That didn't make any sense, that game.
yeah, and you struggle against in games like that, and then it just puts elevates the importance of being able to go out and beat a really good football team, win an extra road game. So win those games.
I think that the biggest disappointments of last year, looking back, were the game against the Bears. But hey, at that point, it was early on in the season. The Bears, we didn't know who the Bears were, if they were any good. In fact, after that game, it's like maybe the Bears are good, and then we found out that they weren't.
Right.
And then the game against the Dolphins.
Yeah.
That was a huge disappointment because there was no reason we should have lost that game.
Yeah.
The Dolphins are a good team, but we were playing at home. We should have opened the game up. Instead, it was like a nightmare game. Nothing went right for a while, and then, as usual, we were trying to catch up, and it didn't happen. But if we could, as Ian says, we're going to have those duds.
Right.
We're going to have those games.
Right.
It's just part of the season, and if you have enough wins in the bank, like
Yeah.
you said, you could afford to have that dud,
Yeah.
and still get away with it. But I think those special seasons is when you limit those duds, and look, the Eagles are going to be tough. You're playing them in Philadelphia. The Lions are going to be tough, but you're playing them at home. Those are games that they're going to, and even the Ravens. The Rams are going to be there on those 3 games. They're going to play those games like it's a playoff type of situation.
Yeah.
Especially the Eagles, and I'm not worried about those games because they're going to show up. They may lose, but they're going to show up.
Yeah.
It's the games that look, we got this.
Yeah.
That's the ones.
Sometimes we remember those duds, and then last year the Rams had 3 games I can think of at the top of my head that were just very, very fortunate to win, just big plays. You think about the Seattle game with the catch by DeMarcus in overtime, and the Kinchin's 100 and whatever yard return that kept us in that game. And then you think about the 49er game we already talked about, and the Arizona game with the Witherspoon interception. That game we were gonna lose that game. I thought that game was over and we were done. So we can be pretty fortunate. We in some ways last year was a magical year. Would have been even more magical if we pick up that block and pull off the win against the Eagles and proceed.
Third and 2.
Yeah.
We'll go down 3rd and 2 at the 12-yard line. And again, this is after the 2 fumbles, right? We still had every opportunity to win that game, and I guarantee you, if someone speaks to McVey and he wishes probably he had a quick run, 2 yards, get the first down, spike the ball, and now you got another 2 downs.
Yeah.
To try to get the ball in the end zone.
Yeah.
And I think the Rams, 2 yards with the snow on the ground, I think there's a chance that they get that first down, more so than go. The one thing that they couldn't do was get sacked in that situation.
Yeah.
And guess what happened? He gets sacked. So, and there's nobody to blame. You know what? You got to tip your hat. The Eagles made the play, just like this play here, or the play before this play here in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
This was 1 yard to get a first down, and they would have continued to hold on to the ball. And who made the play? Aaron Donald, right?
Right.
And of course, it was a great play by Aaron Donald, but was it a bad call by the Bengals?
Yeah.
We don't care. It was a good play by Aaron Donald.
Right.
So I'm sure the Eagle fans don't care about that 3rd and 2.
Yeah. Hey, so final question. Who do the Rams beat in the NFC Championship game and the Super Bowl?
I saw that in your email and I laughed out loud. It's first of all, I hate jinxing because usually whatever that assumes that the Rams are going to be
Oh yeah, we're just trying to be positive here.
in the NFC Championship game and then the Super Bowl. I think, obviously with the NFC Championship game, you're looking at the usual suspects of the last few years. So it's going to be the Eagles or the Lions. The Commanders, we'll see if they could build on what they did last year and get even better, moving forward. As far as as far as the NFC Championship game, I'm praying that it's the Rams and the Lions. I would love to have that come to play, and that would really cement that rivalry.
The NFL would love that. That's for sure.
Yes, that would be fun, and I think it would be a great way for Stafford. And he's already lost to them twice, but to get to beat them in a important game, just like we beat the 49ers after losing for so many years, we'll beat them in the game. The NFC Championship game. And as far as the Super Bowl in the AFC, I really think that this is Baltimore's year.
They finally get over the hump.
Yeah, it's time. If they don't do it this year, they never. And the same thing goes with the Bills, right? If they don't do it, but I think Baltimore's got more weapons at this point. Beware Denver. I think the Broncos really built up their defense.
Yeah, added a couple of 49ers.
Yes, and guys that I wish we had looked at, but we didn't. And they built up their defense, and they always have Sean Payton, who, in my mind has always been not, obviously McVey is much more likable.
Right.
But Sean Payton is their McVey equivalent, right, when it comes to offensive schemes and getting the most out of their offense. So if they could really put a good defense on the field, which I think they can, they will, beware.
Bo Nix looks like he's a legit NFL quarterback. Yeah.
Yes.
For the record, my picks are I think Green Bay is going to elevate above the Lions and the Vikings this year. I think they just really have no holes. So I think they're going to take advantage of that. Just a guess. And then I really like Buffalo for the sake, kind of what you hit on. I love their quarterback, and it maybe just be their time. And that Rams Bills game last year, that's another game.
It was so much fun.
Another crazy game that the Rams ended up winning. And man, that was an electric game. So much fun. That's right there with the Rams Vikings and the Rams Chiefs, and you could put the Rams Bills regular season games in there as classics.
I met a Bill fan in one of the bars here in New York, and he had his Bills hat, Bills Mafia all over the place, and I had my Rams hat, and he's like, we entertained America this year. I said, we really did. I said, that was like the most fun I've had in a regular season game since the Kansas City game that the Rams played in 2018. So I said, it's too bad that they didn't end up meeting again in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because that would have been a lot of fun.
Yeah, the thing that made that Rams-Chiefs game extra special, in my opinion, there was something about the Coliseum that night. It was just surreal, There was just something going on there.
It was electric.
Yeah,
it really was.
Yeah.
And the city needed it. If I recall, you were going through the same issues as far as the fires were concerned. The game wasn't even supposed to be played in LA. It was supposed to be in Mexico City. So it all came together, and they were by far the two best teams in the
Yeah.
NFL. I mean, I hated the idea that the Patriots ended up winning the Super Bowl that
I
year
know.
because I could see us losing to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, but to lose to that Patriot team and the they had no business losing that AFC Championship game to the Patriots. You know that penalty that would have finished the Patriots off when the guy lined up, offside.
Oh,
was
right,
just
right.
But it is what it is.
Yeah, the country
forward.
the country wanted the Rams Chiefs, and they didn't. They still haven't gotten it since that. Yeah, I mean the Rams Chiefs played that one game in the regular season where the Rams that horrible year everything fell apart.
We weren't going to be able to keep up with the Chiefs, not that year.
Right.
I have my cousin who's a big Chiefs fan. He's living his moment of glory after so many years of suffering, and that game, that Monday night game, we were going back and forth, and everyone in the family, knowing that we were fans of the Rams and the Chiefs, are all texting us, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And to this day, every single Super Bowl since 2018 till now, either the Rams or the Chiefs have been involved.
Yeah.
Okay, and yet they've never played each other.
Yeah. God, that would be
It's really
nice.
painful.
Maybe we'll get it this year.
I hope so.
Yeah. Hey, John, it's been fun. Let's do this again. Love
Yes.
having friends of the shows on, and we'll get some other guys on. And hey, you Ram fans out there, if you want to come on and talk Rams football, share some thoughts on our team, reach out to me at ramsuppodcast@gmail.com. We'll get it done. Hey, thanks a lot, man. It's been fun. We'll talk soon again, okay?
Thank you, Mark. And by the way, I will be in LA when the Rams are in Baltimore.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
giving a presentation that weekend, and I'm hoping on that Sunday to go watch the game at a bar somewhere in LA, and maybe we could hook up or something.
Yeah, let Ian and I know. Let us know where you're going to be and when, and maybe we'll figure something out.
What's that place where you go and you watch the game like 3D? What's the name of it in LA? Do you know
Oh,
what
geez,
talking
I'm
about?
not sure. Yeah.
There's this place where you go. It's like on a screen, and you're practically in the stadium. It's very interesting. I've been asking people from LA if they know what it is. Probably Ian knows. It's
Yeah.
probably one of where the younger guys go.
Yeah, we'll find out, and I wouldn't be surprised if someone posts the information in the comments here. But I'll definitely find out.
That would be great because I'm planning to watch the game at a bar somewhere in LA.
Yeah. What part of LA are you going to be in? Do you know?
I think I'm going again to Montebello to give another, a presentation on the Saturday.
Yeah, that's
then I figured
that's in Ian's neck of the woods right there.
Okay, so
Yeah.
maybe I'll hook up. Yeah, I'll hang out with Ian during the game and watch him suffer because I know he's one of those fellow sufferers.
He is. He's the pessimist, and I'm the optimist in most cases, anyways. Okay, John, man, it's been fun. Let's talk soon. Maybe when you get out to LA, we will get together. That'd be a lot of fun.
That will be, and I'm looking forward to speaking to you again. Hopefully in the future when we're 6-0 and
Yeah.
on our way to the playoffs.
There you go. That I like how you think.
You like that
Okay,
positive thinking?
man. Right there you go. All right. Thanks a lot, man.
Go Rams. Mark, be good.